Welcome back to Maybe Actually Museums Are For Me. I'm Alex, host of the podcast, and this week we are taking a bit of a detour. And you might be saying, why are we detouring? Last week was a detour. You didn't give me a real episode of last week. What the heck? This is a real episode, and I'm excited to say that. But we are returning to our favorite co-host, Melissa Casal. Her and I are going to be talking about the inside baseball of museum marketing. And hopefully that doesn't sound like a boring episode. I think it's quite interesting. Maybe I'm impartial because it's my job. But I think sometimes there is kind of question marks about I think sometimes there are lingering questions about what is the role of marketing in a museum? How do you present, content? Or if you view what we provide as services and experience and, I guess a product in some ways, it is interesting to me to break down, how do the people, serving that content to you think about the way that they're doing it, and what does it mean to them, and what philosophies do they bring to the table? The first time I really considered, marketing, I guess, as a relevant and important modality of creation was when I was probably in middle school or high school. I remember seeing a really compelling Apple commercial that to me felt more like a short film. There was a similar commercial that I watched from H&M that they had Wes Anderson direct it. It was like a Christmas commercial for H&M. It takes place on a train, and it's a little short film, but at the end of the day, it's an advertisement. It's a commercial. And I realized that there can be really interesting and dynamic and narratively engaging stories that can be told through a commercialized lens in some ways, if you will. And, here at MAM, I get to do that myself, which is a really funny thing to look back on, what it was that I appreciated at that time without realizing where it would lead me. And so, when you take what we do here, everything that I do, and I think Melissa as well does, is in the service of story. It's in the service of presenting a narrative of what the museum means and is and represents in a consumable, watchable, viewable package. Anyway, without any further ado, here's my conversation with Melissa Casal. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Alex.
How's it going?
It's going well.
Yeah. Summer's almost over.
It is. Only a week left of August.
Yeah, it's kind of horrifying.
Yeah.
But alas. Anyway, there's some fun stuff coming up at the museum, which I think is a big kind of indicator of our jobs in getting the word out there to people. So pretty much, as I'm sure I made clear in the cold open, this episode is kind of slightly self-serving in a way.
It's just an excuse for me and you to chat to each other.
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking about the importance and the science, if you will, behind museum marketing, why it's important to market a museum, how you market a museum, because it's different than, in many ways, a product or a service. You're providing an experience in a lot of ways. And, how do you convey that to an audience? How do you pitch that to, a newcomer? How do you reiterate what we're doing to our regular guests? And we're a two-man team over here, smallest department in the whole museum. Just plugging away, doing our thing. And technically you're my manager. Technically, I think. Because there's only two of us. There's two of us, and you have a more senior position than I do.
I do, but I don't manage you. What?
Yeah, but
your projects are separate from my projects.
I guess. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. But when our supervisor does go on vacation, I am technically in charge of the department.
Thus, right now, you're technically my boss because he's out today.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so, Melissa, I guess jumping into this, because I think I have my own, just because our jobs are different, but I have my own philosophy. But I'm curious, you don't come from a comm or marketing background. You're an art history major. You're a consumer and a scholar of art, one may say. How do you approach marketing, like your job in marketing, you know?
I come at it very much from a consumer point of view because for a long time that's what I was. Before I even started at the museum, I had more experience with museum websites and like online presence than say the average person because of studying art history, especially doing my graduate program during the pandemic where I couldn't physically go to any museums. I relied very heavily on what institutions had available digitally and through their websites and online collections and things like that. So when I came into MAM and got the chance to help enhance the MAM website and our online presence, I came at it with all the questions or concerns or whatever that I got from being a consumer of, oh, we really need this on the website, or this needs to be easier to find, or we need more information about our collection, or we need more information about this. I had that background, which I think has helped me a lot kind of find my footing in a marketing world of this might be what people are looking for. This might be what people find. This is a person's first impression of our institution, so we got to make it a good one. But yeah, I definitely try to come at, if I didn't know anything about MAM, if I didn't know anything about any of this stuff, like what would grab my attention?
Yeah.
What would hold my attention? At one point when I get frustrated and just like not want to know anything else, or I would stop. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's pretty similar to like in many ways how I produce is a lot from where I consume when it comes to like our content. Like obviously like our jobs are very different. Like you're dealing with the website, we kind of overlap a little bit on email stuff. I mean, less so. Like I'm not drafting the emails you are, but
but we have a lot of the same starting information that then we have to pair for our respective platforms.
Yeah. And so like for me, I definitely didn't think I would be working in this setting. I'm thrilled that I am. I'm happy to be here. I don't want to leave arts and culture now. Like I love it so much. But when I first kind of realized that like, I guess the first time I ever like consciously understood what marketing was like being like a teenager watching like Apple commercials and having like a very conscious thought of like, these are really good. Like they're like making like short films and like that's just their ads.
Yeah.
Like it's storytelling and realizing the importance of story and the importance of narrative. And then also just like, harkening back to like the things that I consumed on YouTube. Like, when I was in high school, Bon Appetit was like a huge thing, and like studying what did BA do, how did the test kitchen work, how did those videos and those characters come to life, how could we adapt that in our content. And like it's tricky because like I'm one person making all of our video content and all of our podcast content and all of our social media content, and so one of the things that like those platforms or like those creators have is like consistency. And a whole army of content producers like behind it, video editors, cinematographers, the whole nine. Like here it's just me, and like I am blessed to have that creative freedom and that independence. But yeah, sometimes it's like, man, like we know this type of video, like for example, like these art lessons, which we post on YouTube, you can, they're called After Hours Art. And they feature some of our art teachers that you could take classes with here at MAM, and we kind of treat them like cooking videos. I definitely am inspired by what Bon Appetit did. And, trying to, present these teachers in a new light, and, the marketing aspect of it is trying to get people to take classes here at MAM, like an element of everything that I'm creating for better or for worse. And like, I don't feel like we're like it's not like we're working at like some major corporation where it like feels like you're selling like your soul. Like I feel good about the stories that I'm telling.
Yeah.
I feel like what I'm doing matters and it's important to me. And, you know, I think that we do really good work. And so like, obviously we're a marketing department. Everything we're doing is in the service of getting people here or getting people informed about what we're doing. And so with like an art lesson video, it's like, okay, well, you know, I want you to be entertained. I want you to get something out of this, but also like, I want you to think about maybe where's your place in taking a class here at MAM? Could you see yourself working with Christian or working with, you know, Steve, our ceramics studio manager, who we're going to do a video with him pretty soon. Anyway, besides the point, I guess I'm kind of rambling. My point being is like what I'm actively consuming or have consumed is like a lot of what I'm trying to emulate. It's just this battle of like how much can you get done in the limited window of time that you have when you're working on such a small scale. I'm sure for, you know, MoMA or the Smithsonian's, like the Frick, like they have entire floors of people probably working on every single thing. And it's a matter of like, you know, I try to always talk about like tangible success in regards to like what we're doing. And it's like, you know, we don't have millions and millions of followers in the way that like the Met does or in the way that the National Gallery does or so on and so forth or whatever. But, you know, if you look at and break down the numbers of like who's coming to the museum every week, how many people are watching the content, who's like feeds of these things we're making getting into, how many people are opening our emails, how many people are clicking on the website, and then break that down by engagement and by followers. It's like, I think we are doing really well in regards to our tangible success,
especially when you compare it to maybe other arts institution or culture institutions. We have, for say, having a smaller following than major New York institutions, that might be true, but our engagement with that audience is very high compared to other similar institutions, which is a nice feeling to know. Like, we're creating content that people engage with, that people are interested by.
It also helps when, you know, obviously the shows are exciting and the shows are visibly really, really, you know, appealing to the eye. Like, I think, you know, what's coming with Tom Nussbaum in the fall is a really, really, you know, easy thing for us to market because it is so dynamic and it is so interesting and there is that community stake. And, you know, sometimes I think when you're dealing with like a small institution like ours or like an intimate institution like ours, there's certain things that, like, you know, every department has to kind of work off of each other and think about each other. And so it's like, okay, you know, when curatorial is putting on a show, it's like, okay, obviously, like, I don't expect curatorial to like innately be thinking about like, how do you market this, yada yada yada, but, you know, it's a part of the conversation of like, okay, here's the show, how do we best present this to the community? And it's like, for someone like Tom, it's like, oh, he's local, oh, he's been creating for, you know, decades and decades and decades, oh, he has public art not only here in Montclair and Essex County but all across New Jersey. And it's like, okay, we can work with that in a really good way and you know, create a campaign that really speaks to that messaging.
Yeah. And kind of every new show, you in particular, you look at like, what new content or like different content can I create around this? And Tom himself is like so engaged that, you know, you were able to go to his studio and work with him and you went and saw some of his public art. So it's what can the digital campaign be around this show or around this person is a question that you in particular, you ask every time.
Yeah, it's like, you know, everything that I'm doing is in service of the show and in service of the artist, in support of the artist. And so it's like, I could do the social media stuff. I think I have an eye for it. But, you know, my feed, and this is kind of the burden that everyone has to deal with. And now that I'm working in social media and marketing and content creation, I get it a lot more, you know, it's tricky because like everyone's feed is so individualized, and what's popular on my feed isn't necessarily popular on your feed or the average viewer's feed, or, you know, I have to kind of be thoughtful about like, well, what would our audience be watching, and am I our target audience? And if I'm not our target audience, which I think my feed probably is, you know, in the realm of you know, I get a lot of arts content, and I don't think that's because I work in a museum. I think it's because what I'm actually interested in. But, you know, I have to think about like what is actually on like when you're gonna make a TikTok account for the first time, and you have those first 10 scrolls. What are the popular trends in those 10 scrolls? Yeah. I'm not getting them on my feed. So it's a matter of like, you know, if we have an intern coming in being like, hey, scroll through your TikTok.
What's going on social media?
What's going on your side of social media? Because it is very, you know, it's camps. It's different camps of content. And so it's like for Tom's show, I saw one trend that popped in my feed that wasn't typical to what I got or what I get. And it had hundreds of thousands of likes, and, you know, again, with the conscious expectations and tangible results of like what our audience brings, like I know that's not going to be what we get, but, you know, it can lead me in a direction to create interesting and fun content that, you know, for a small subgroup might pop. And so we did this thing where, you know, I was on vacation and I never stopped thinking about my job, and so I was on, like, it was a funny little video where I'm on the beach. And I have the realization that there is a Tom Nussbaum public work in Wildwood, which there is. And I get up off the beach, I ride my bike back to the house, and I drive into Wildwood, and there I am at the artwork, and yada, yada, yada. The show comes to MAM in the fall. And that's like the gist. But it's like doing those things every single time, multiple times, constantly thinking about it, constantly adapting, you know, creating different content, and like knowing like what content goes on what platform. And it's like you can be a bit more risky or experimental on TikTok. You know, now we're starting to kind of push more dynamic, more TikTok forward content on Instagram, and we're seeing success in that way. And so it's something we're going to lean a little bit into, but, you know, it's still a learning curve. Everything is experiment. Like everything we do is experimentation, at least on like the social media side of things. If you look at other institutions, you know, because I'm constantly scrolling on the feeds of other accounts, both large and small, just to know what's going on. And it seems like every museum's trying to figure this out, you know?
I think every company or even individual person is trying to figure it out, which that's the thing sometimes we have to be aware of, is you don't know what's going to become popular until it becomes popular, and then you can't really replicate it again. Like I'm thinking of Irene's video where it was one of our art lessons with one of our art instructors got like, I don't know how many.
I know on TikTok it ended up getting a little shy of 50,000 views on TikTok for us, which is incredible.
That's one of the most well-performing videos on our TikTok. And it was just, you know, a mix of, maybe it was in people's algorithm. It's her personality. She's very kind of open and funny and a little bit kooky, but it works. But then, you know, you post another art instructor video and it doesn't do as well. And it's like, well, it's the same content. And well, it doesn't really matter, which can be, I imagine, frustrating.
And a lot of it is bandwidth stuff in a lot of ways, where it's like, you know, I could probably like describe to you what the perfect TikTok looks like, you know, in regards to like those art lesson videos and whatever, and you can replicate that and do all of the things and add all of the filters and add all of the hashtags and add all of the on-screen captioning that you know people want to see in those videos, or add the AI TikTok voice that like people want to hear. But like it's a ton of work for a singular creator. And that's not me complaining about my job. I'm just saying like that is what it is.
A fact.
To then balance, you know, all of the other day-to-day tasks and videos and podcasts and everything that I have to make, content that I have to make. And, you know, but then I think I kind of step back sometimes and I think, you know, yes, these huge institutions and companies and organizations, whatever, like it's not just museums, but like across the board, they may have like armies of people working on their content, and, you know, that's why it's so consistent and so fluid and so vast. But then I think about like other small institutions, you know, not much bigger nor smaller than us. And it's like, they might not have anybody doing this right now, or it might just be like the afterthought of their sole marketer, you know? And it's like, when you kind of think about it that way, it's like, all right, well, again, tangible success. I think we're doing pretty well. And, you know, I think with the resources we've allocated towards, you know, revamping our marketing efforts in the last, you know, I'd say 3 to 5 years, you know, it's exciting and it's fun. Melissa, I was curious, I guess one of the battles that we have in marketing, especially for like cultural institutions, museums, the whole nine, is like, how do you, like, it's one thing to like bring somebody in for the first time, but it's like once they've already been here, it's kind of like, oh, we saw it, we've been there, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
How do you like get people to keep coming back from like the way that you view it? Because, you know, I think that in the realm of social media, and less of the video content, but the social media content specifically, is like, you kind of have 2 avenues. It can either be you're creating content to be consumed, and it's kind of like a one-to-one transaction, that it's like, okay, here's the thing we're making, you're going to watch it, hopefully you come. Or it's this, you know, audience building type thing where you encourage engagement, and you know, you kind of like break the fourth wall and try and be more tongue-in-cheek and make people feel a part of it. And I think that's what we're trying our best to do, and what I think most, you know, contemporary social media campaigns are trying to be, are these audience building, community building type platforms. And I think that is a big factor in bringing people back. But I'm curious, from like the more traditional marketing kind of perspective, which is your side of things in the office, like, how do you view getting people to return?
You kind of touched on this a little bit at the beginning, how our marketing jobs or efforts are a little bit different, because while there is one product, which is the museum, it's the Montclair Art Museum, underneath that there are a bunch of other products, for, quote unquote, that we're promoting or marketing. It's the exhibitions, we have art classes, it's public programs,
Events,
like lectures or concerts or workshops. It's all of these other things that are happening inside this building. So I try to focus on things people can engage with in the museum that isn't just looking at art or isn't just reading a catalog. I try to think like, well, just, you don't even have to buy a ticket. Come sit in the cafe and get a coffee and do work here.
Yeah.
Or come and we have sketching in the gallery. We have sketching material. Come and sit and do that.
Yeah.
Or
it's about working the angles of like,
it's about working the
what
angles
else are
of
we? You know, we're more than just a museum.
What else can you get out
Yeah.
of this space? And what we try to do is say this isn't just a museum, it's a community hub, or it's an art hub where there's more for you to do than just sitting and looking at art, which that's a big part of it. And some people do just like to come in and do that, which, you know, cool. That's great. I like to do that too. I love going over on Fridays when the galleries are open and just kind of walking through.
Yeah.
But if that's maybe not the most important or interesting thing to you, come to a Free First Thursday, or come sit in the grass on the lawn, or look at the sculptures outside. Like, you don't even have to physically come into the building.
How, I guess, if like theoretically, like if there's other museum marketers out there listening and you know, seeking advice or whatever, is there any like philosophies or strategies that you really believe in, that you tend to like apply to your day-to-day like approach to like presenting the museum? Because I think I do, but I'm curious if you do.
I think art can be very intimidating for people.
That's the whole point of the show.
Yeah, I know. And a philosophy I picked up from school that I always keep in the back of my head is, I was told by various art history professors, when writing about art or anything, assume that the person reading what you're writing has absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So if you use an obscure term, you have to define that term, or just don't reference some movement without then explaining what that movement is. And I kind of hold that same philosophy of, you know, present art or present what we're doing in a way that is digestible, in a way that is understandable, a way that makes it sound exciting and fun, because oftentimes it is. But if you're using terms or flowery language or 2 pages of text to try to explain something that we're doing at the museum, either someone's not going to understand it, they're going to get frustrated by it, they're going to get bored by it, and they're not going to read it, and they're going to apply all those negative terms then to the institution or to the program or to the, you know, so.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Well, I guess we're gonna wrap it up there. This is like a little inside baseball episode about what Melissa and I do and talk about on a day-to-day basis. I feel like this was like a good example of what we just genuinely talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe we'll do another one of these. I don't think this is necessarily the bread and butter of what this podcast is, but I thought that it might be interesting to just dive into like how we approach communication about museums, because at the end of the day, like this is content to be consumed and to be enjoyed, but like it's coming from the marketing department. Like ultimately, like this is marketing, and I don't think of this show as like a marketing like ploy. I do view it as something that is enjoyable, A, to create, and B, should be broad enough for anybody anywhere to enjoy. But yeah, it is the podcast of the Montclair Art Museum. So
yeah, you are consuming content surrounding the Montclair Art Museum or involving the Montclair Art Museum.
Yeah, and I think, I guess kind of one last final point, like I think that content in a lot of ways is identity, and it's not necessarily that you as a consumer of content are wearing that brand's ideology on your sleeve. But I think the content that you choose to consume and choose to support and repost and share and subscribe to return to in a lot of ways does tell you a little bit about what you support and what you care about and who you are. And I think if you are somebody who returns to this show week after week, or subscribes to our YouTube channel, or is a member of the museum, I think that you consciously or unconsciously support the work that we do and are aware of the power that affiliation holds. It's the same reason that people have their New Yorker totes, or they like their iPhone to be caseless. It's kind of those situations where it's like, even if it's unconscious, there is an element of showcase and of display. And to repost a show like this, or to subscribe to the YouTube channel, or to to flash your membership card at a local business where you might get a 10% discount or something, like those things might be subtle, but I think they do present an affiliation and a admiration for what it is we do. And I think that what we do is really important, and what we provide is really important, and what the museum puts on is priceless in a lot of ways. And I hope that we can continue to share that with the world. Anything else?
Thank you for your support.
Oh yeah, there you go. Thanks for your support. All right. That was Maybe Acting Museums Are For Me. Thank you so much, Melissa, for joining me today. Like always, I appreciate it. I hope that this episode wasn't too boring. I assume if you made it this far, you did not think that, and I thank you. Again, this has been Maybe Actually Museums Are For Me. You can find us everywhere you stream podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere. It's great. The museum is actually closed the next couple weeks as we get ready for our fall rotations, but don't you fret. In a couple weeks, Tom Nussbaum, but wait, there's more, will grace our galleries, and it's going to be great. So stay tuned on our website for more details. You can just find us at www.montclairartmuseum.org. And yeah, I guess that's it. I appreciate it. I will talk to you next week. Bye.